Ay madgison.
The sound of my phone buzzing like a trapped insect was a stark contrast to the serene scene in front of me. I was sitting on a bench by the river, watching my 12-year-old daughter, Lily, try to touch the sky with her sneakers as she swung high, her laughter filling the air. The phone kept lighting up with calls from my mother, my sister Ava, and a few other relatives, but I didn't even glance at it. For 6 long years, those calls had owned me, but today, I chose to ignore them. It all started at a family dinner. The dining room was filled with the aroma of a delicious roast and the fresh scent of lemon polish. My mother's elegant table, stretching 10 feet long, was set like a page from a magazine. As she talked about her 70th birthday party at the Grand Oaks Ballroom, I noticed the place cards. There were cards for my sister Ava's kids, Max and Zoe, but none for Lily. I tried to convince myself it was an oversight, but I knew better. My mother, a controlling and cold woman, never made oversights. With a smile that masked her true intentions, she dropped the bombshell. Your daughter is not invited to my birthday party. The table fell silent. Ava studied her plate, but I saw the corner of her mouth twitch with a hint of satisfaction. Lily, sitting beside me, held her napkin tightly in her small fists, her eyes wide and still as glass. My mother added, "The kids' table is full," as if that would make it all okay. I looked down the table runner and saw 2 empty chairs with no place cards. Aunt Grace reached for the rolls and said nothing, while my father pretended to be engrossed in his water glass. I didn't argue. I knew that's what my mother wanted, a scene she could use to paint me as the difficult one. Instead, I went still, just like Lily. I've learned over the years that my mother thrives on reactions. So, I folded my napkin and placed it beside my untouched plate. "Lily, get your coat, sweetheart," I said softly. Lily looked up at me with her father's warm brown eyes. She didn't cry, but that's what broke my heart. She just nodded, slid off her chair, and went to the hall closet. My mother scoffed. "Oh, don't be dramatic," I replied. "We're going to be late for something," even though we had nothing planned. As we drove away, the October air outside felt like a breath of fresh air after the suffocating atmosphere in that room. Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" I gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to hold back the anger and hurt that had been building up for years. "You did nothing wrong, sweetie. Nothing at all," I said, my voice steady. But she persisted. "Then why doesn't Grandma want me there?" I didn't have a good answer then. It would take me a couple of weeks and a box to finally find the truth. "Some grown-ups make mistakes and call them traditions," I said. "I'm a CPA, running a small tax and accounting firm near Main Street. I built my business from the ground up, working long hours at the kitchen table while Lily slept in a laundry basket beside me. I was 25 when I had her, and her father left before she could even hold her head up. So I learned to be strong, to hold everything together. I was always good at setting boundaries with clients. I could tell them no without hesitation, and I've even made grown business owners cry by calmly showing them the numbers. But when it came to my mother, I had no boundaries. I was like an open door, always ready to help, always paying the bills. The house my parents lived in was originally on the verge of foreclosure 15 years ago, when my father's business failed. 6 years ago, when my firm finally started making real money, I bought the house at an auction. I put my parents' names on the lease for $1 a year and never raised it. I paid the property taxes, the insurance, and even covered my father's medical bills when he needed a heart surgery. It cost me $18,000 that the insurance didn't cover, but I never mentioned it. Every family gathering, every holiday, and every party somehow ended up on my card. I paid the $1,500 deposit for my mother's 70th birthday party at the Grand Oaks Ballroom without hesitation, not knowing that Lily would be left off the guest list. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because I thought being needed meant being loved. But as I looked at the spreadsheet I'd been keeping for years, a question kept nagging at me. What would happen if I stopped paying? The signs of Lily's exclusion had been there for a long time. On my mother's refrigerator, there were mostly pictures of Max and Zoe. Lily's picture was always pushed to the side. At Christmas, Max and Zoe would get beautifully wrapped gifts, while Lily would get an envelope with a small amount of money and a promise of something better next time. That next time never came. When Lily made the honor roll, my mother would just say, "That's nice, dear," and then change the subject to Max's soccer game. But when Max made the honor roll, there was a big celebration with a cake. I used to make excuses for my mother, saying she was old and stressed, but deep down, I knew the truth. After the dinner, I had 3 plans to fix the situation. The first was to throw Lily her own party, bigger and better than my mother's. The second was to take my mother to lunch and gently explain how hurtful her actions were. The third was to pay for an even nicer venue and try to get Lily back on the guest list. But all these plans involved me spending more money and energy to smooth things over. One morning, as I was sketching party ideas on a notepad, Lily came in for cereal. She read the pad over my shoulder and asked, "Is that for me?" I said, "Maybe. Would you want a party?" She thought for a moment and then said, "You don't have to buy me a different party, Mom. I just wanted to be at the regular one." That was when I realized that I couldn't keep fixing things. I couldn't keep building a nicer cage for the excluded. I tore up the page with the party ideas and knew that it was time for a change. That night, I found Lily sitting on her floor with her backpack open. She was holding a handmade card she'd made for my mother's birthday. It had a drawing of a cake with 70 candles and the words, "Happy 70th, Grandma," written in careful marker letters. She looked at the card for a long time and then tore it in half, quietly and without anger. She put the pieces in her trash can and zipped her bag. Seeing that, I understood that my mother wasn't just hurting me. She was teaching Lily a cruel lesson. Lily was starting to believe that she was worth less, that she was the one who could be left out. Something inside me that had been warm for so long went cold. It wasn't rage, it was clarity. 2 days after the dinner, my mother called me about the catering balance. Her voice was warm, the one she used when she wanted something. "Addison, honey, the Grand Oaks people want the rest of the deposit by Friday. It's $2,500 for the catering, and I want the big silver balloons. They're $50 each, but they look so nice in pictures." She had money for balloons, but no place for Lily. She also asked me not to tell Ava that I was covering it, saying she didn't want Ava to feel like she should chip in. I told her I'd let her know about Friday, and hung up. Ava texted me that afternoon, saying Mom felt bad it got tense at dinner. She also told me not to make Lily's thing bigger than it was. I didn't reply right away. Ava sent another text, saying it was just one party, and I should let it go. I typed and deleted several replies, knowing that none of them would be calm. In the end, I sent nothing. That night, I opened the spreadsheet and finally looked at the cumulative total. It was a 6-figure number. I realized that I had been buying my own bad reputation, being labeled as the difficult one in the family. I had the legal right to stop all the financial support. The house was in my name, and the accounts were funded by me. A few days later, my niece Max came by to return a book. He was 16, a good kid in a family full of drama. While he was in my kitchen, his phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up, showing a group chat called Family Celebration Crew, with a little grandmother emoji beside it. I'd never seen this group before. The preview line showed, "Mom, did Addison pay the Grand Oaks balance yet?" Max saw me looking and quickly grabbed his phone. He blushed and said it was just a planning thing for the party. But I knew there was more to it. Max hesitated for a moment and then said, "Aunt Addison, you should probably see something, but you can't tell anyone it was me." I promised I wouldn't. He set the phone back on the counter and walked to the window. "Scroll up. Started June," he said quietly. As I scrolled through the messages, my blood boiled. There were messages from Ava suggesting that they only do gifts for Max and Zoe at Easter, and my mother agreeing. I was always mentioned in relation to money. "Addison's covering it. Ask Addison. Put it on Addison's card." There were also comments from Ava about how I thought I was better than them because of my successful business. My mother never disagreed. Then I found a message from my mother from a few days after the dinner. Ava had asked if it would look bad leaving Lily out, and my mother replied, "Lily isn't really one of ours. She's that man's child through and through. Addison made her choice when she left town and came back with a baby. Ava stayed, and her kids are ours." I'm not pretending anymore. I set the phone down, my hand steady. I finally knew exactly what I was dealing with. When Lily came home from soccer practice, I made her grilled cheese, and we ate at the counter. I didn't tell her what I'd read, but I asked her, "If you could pick, what would you want about Grandma's family?" She thought for a while and said, "I don't need a party. I don't even need Grandma to like me. I just don't want to feel like the leftover one." That was it. I decided it was time to end it. I called a real estate attorney, Mr. Thompson. I sat across from him with the deed to the house. "I want to transfer ownership of this house to my parents as a gift," I said. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "The house is worth about $420,000 now. Are you sure?" I said yes, explaining that it would be theirs, free and clear, and they would be responsible for all the expenses from now on. He said there would be gift tax paperwork and that they would need to sign acceptance. I knew they would sign. They'd never turn down something free. I told him I wanted them to find out at the party. That afternoon, I started removing my card from all the accounts. I canceled the monthly transfer of $1,800 to my parents' checking account. I called the Grand Oaks Ballroom and asked them to remove my payment method. The coordinator said they would reach out to my mother about the remaining balance. I also removed my card from the cable bill, the lawn service, and the pharmacy auto refill account. It took me 15 minutes to undo 6 years of being the family's financial support. I felt a strange sense of lightness, like I'd been carrying a heavy suitcase and finally put it down. My mother called me on Saturday with a sweeter voice, saying she'd been thinking about the dinner and maybe she was a bit harsh. She invited me to the party, but only me, not Lily. I told her I wouldn't be coming. She got angry and said I was selfish, that Ava would never do such a thing. I replied, "I know." Ava stayed. Something in my tone made her go quiet. Ava called me soon after, yelling at me for not paying for the party and saying I was going to humiliate Mom in front of the whole family. Asked her if she'd told Mom to leave Lily off the list. She tried to deny it, but I reminded her of the Easter message. She then lashed out, saying I thought I was better than them because of my money and that Lily was just like me, stuck up. My father texted me on Tuesday saying Mom told him Lily was busy with a soccer tournament and that's why she wasn't coming to the party. I told him the truth, that Mom had uninvited Lily and that it had been going on for years. He didn't believe it at first, but I assured him I wasn't lying. On Thursday, the deed came back from the attorney, signed and notarized. I bought a beautiful cream-colored box and tied it with purple ribbon, Lily's favorite color. Inside the box, I put the deed with a note saying the house was theirs now, free and clear. I also included a letter stating that all recurring financial support would end immediately. There was a final accounting showing all the money I'd spent on the family over the years. And I put in the 2 torn halves of Lily's birthday card. I taped a small place card to the inside of the lid with Lily's name on it, written in my best imitation of my mother's cursive. On Saturday, I scheduled the courier to deliver the box to the party at 3:30. Then Lily and I went to our favorite diner for pancakes. We talked about her science project and a book she was reading. After that, we went to the park by the river. Lily swung high, laughing, and I sat on the bench, watching her. At 3:40, I got a text from the courier saying the box had been delivered and signed for by my mother. I put the phone away and pushed Lily higher on the swing. I later learned from Max and a couple of cousins what happened at the party. By 4 o'clock, the Grand Oaks Ballroom was full of people. The silver balloons and the 70 candles on the cake looked beautiful. My mother was in her fancy dress, holding court. The catering staff had been asking her about the balance, but she kept waving them off, assuming I'd take care of it. When the courier arrived with the box, my mother was excited. She had Max sign for it and carried it to the head table. She turned the card over and saw it was from me. She said, "See?" She came around. She always does, and smiled at Ava. But when she opened the box, everything changed. She first pulled out the deed and read the note. Her face showed a mix of pleasure at the thought of getting the house, and then the realization that it had always been mine. She then picked up the letter and read about the end of the financial support. Her face turned pale. Next, she saw the accounting and her expression turned to shock. The torn card fell out, and then the place card with Lily's name. The room went quiet. My mother whispered, "Your daughter is not invited to my birthday party." But it came out like a confession. Just then, the head server came back and asked about the balance. He said the card on file had been declined and they needed someone to pay the remaining $2,500. Everyone in the room started doing the math, realizing that I had been the one paying for everything. My mother went from gray to red in seconds. She started crying, saying I was ungrateful, and how could I do this to her on her birthday? No one moved to comfort her. Then, she turned on Ava, blaming her for saying I wouldn't do anything. Ava started backpedaling, and the whole family drama spilled out. My father, who had come believing Lily had a soccer tournament, watched everything in silence. He picked up the place card with Lily's name and looked at my mother. He said, "What did you do?" For the first time in 40 years, he was asking her. She had no answer. The party ended early. Aunt Grace ended up paying the catering balance, and she never let my mother forget it. The silver balloons were left behind. My parents now own the house, but they're starting to realize the weight of the expenses I used to cover. Ava stopped speaking to my mother for a while. Max texted me the next morning, saying he was glad I saw what was going on and that I got out. He comes to have pancakes with us most weeks now, and Lily has a cousin again. I didn't lose money in the end. I lost a monthly transfer I never owed and a bad reputation that I'd been overpaying for. What I gained was peace and the knowledge that I was finally standing up for myself and my daughter. My mother left a voicemail, crying and explaining how much she'd sacrificed, but she never said sorry. I didn't call her back. My father came to my office one day, holding his hat in his hands. He said he didn't know what was going on and that he should have. He asked if he could get to know Lily on my terms. I told him he could take her for ice cream on Saturdays. He's been doing that ever since, and he never mentions my mother. Family isn't about who uses your money and your name. It's about who saves a seat for your child without being asked. I finally stopped paying for a table that never had a place for mine.